Today I messed up not being careful with a wire transfer. I recently sold a sport horse to someone. This required some back and forth of wire transfers. This is a process I am very familiar with, so I wasn't concerned over anything, and was not thinking with my regular citizen brain, apparently. The horse in question's name is Liam. Without thinking, I name the wire transfer Liam Sale. Seems solid to me. Fast forward. Days go by, bank transfer is processing. Receiver is getting antsy about it, understandably, it's a good chunk of cash. I'm like, that's weird. Usually this happens quickly, I have made international transfers in under an hour. Turns out they were very concerned that I was selling a person named Liam. Like, trafficking type stuff. I was horrified. I had to provide all the horse's papers, etc. to ease their nerves. Lesson learned. Be more careful what you name things in your bank transfers. Today I messed up telling a VP that he could not borrow a USB cable that he needed urgently, probably causing him to miss out on an important meeting. Background: I work at a fintech company where most people work hybrid and only come into the office once, maybe twice a week. There's no such thing as an office and anyone can just come in and grab any desk they can get. We're aggressively expanding on certain areas and recently hired a couple new VPs to head newly formed teams. On a fine Thursday afternoon, me and my teammates were ready to wrap up for the day. She has to attend one final meeting and left for the said meeting and left her USB cable on her desk next to mine. A few minutes after she left for her meeting, a person who I'd never seen before yet seemed vaguely familiar came up to me and asked if the USB cable was mine and if he could borrow it. I told him that it was my teammate's cable and that she was in a meeting. He asked me he could still borrow it because he needed to charge his laptop as it had run out of battery and he needed to attend an important meeting on Zoom. Here comes the fuck up. I told him that he'd have to get my teammate's permission if he wanted to borrow the cable as it wasn't mine, even though I was pretty sure she wouldn't mind if he did borrow it, and that I couldn't let him borrow it. He said okay in disappointment and left in a hurry. Now, I started to think back as to why this man seemed familiar when I'd never seen before, and then it struck me. He's one of the new VPs that we hired and I'd seen his photo in our org's all-hands meeting. Now, there was no one else in the office at this time and I'm pretty sure he wasn't able to get another USB cable, causing him to miss out on his meeting. A couple minutes later, my teammate came back from her meeting and I explained to her the awkward encounter I just had and we left the office. Today I messed up. Good friend of mine thought it was something more. Always been a giver. Am not rich by any means, but if I got it you got it. I have a friend, F, who we've been friends for a while and every now and again to lift her spirits I take her flowers or get her small thoughtful gifts. Nothing much. Recently she asked, still with your GF, which I said yes. She asked about you the other day. We've been friends for 7 years, I've been with my GF for 6. Asked if I did the same for her. I do, but I said I do it for you BC, it makes you happy, and I do it for all my friends. This was over a week ago and she hasn't replied since. There hasn't been anything sexual between us ever, but I do know we care about each other a lot. I haven't been able to sleep, I don't want to lose a good friend. Plus not only it makes her feel good, gift giving make me feel good as well. Today I messed up by telling my son, 5, that everything eventually dies. About a month ago, my Opa passed away. My partner and I attended with our 3 kids, 2 5 years and a 3 years old. I am age appropriately honest with my kids. They also ask a shit ton of questions, so it is just easier to tell the truth. This is the first funeral they have attended with a casket and an open one at that. This event is what has sparked a month-long conversation about dying with my son. My son has always been sensitive. He has a super big heart and really doesn't like being sad. His sisters are not the same. With my daughters, the death of my Opa only sparked a few questions with some follow-ups the following day. With my son, it kept expanding and stayed constant with questions until a couple days ago when I clearly fucked up. My son was talking about his Gigi, my mother. I'm only half listening because he is always talking about something. He grabs my full attention and says, "Mom, I don't want Gigi to die." This not being the first time I've heard this, I say okay. The first time he said this, I told him that she wouldn't die until she was really old. This is a lie, I'm surprised she has survived this long for other reasons. He didn't like this answer and had been proclaiming he didn't want Gigi to die every couple of days. Well, he didn't stop there this day. He then said he didn't want me or Daddy to die. To this I said, me either, baby. But I won't die for a really long time. I promise. This was also not acceptable to him. He said, no, I don't want you to die at all. So I explained that everything eventually dies. Trees, animals, bugs, even clothes, as they degrade over time. I even brought the circle of life into it in hopes that would allow him to understand. This was also wrong. He cried and I held him while saying it would be okay. He moved on with his day and didn't bring it up again. Until today. Today, I was reading a book with some headphones on to drown out the loudness of everything when I see my son doing his fake cry. bouncing trick he does when he upset about something, but it's not full-on tears ready. I ask him what's wrong, and after a few times of him mumbling and me asking what, I finally decipher that he doesn't want to grow and get big anymore because if I get big then I will die and I don't want to die. I repeat back what I heard as a question to make sure I am right. He confirms and busts into tears. My heart broke and I knew I fucked up. I had to hold him and tell him that if he didn't want to die, he didn't have to. I told him I'd live with him forever too. Today I messed up. I tried to surprise my teenage son but made him cry instead. My son and I just moved into our new place a few days ago after struggling with being unhoused and living in my truck for a while. I thought that it would be a nice surprise, so I didn't tell him after finally saving up enough to get us a place. I will never forget the look on his face when we walked in and I told him that it's our new home and that we don't have to sleep in the car anymore. I thought that he would excitedly lose his mind considering how much he had been patiently dreaming of that moment. He timidly asked if it's really ours, and when I assured him that yes it is, he just started crying. It was gut-wrenching. I gave him a bear hug and told him to let it all out. I felt so bad when he thanked me for being able to get the place. As a parent, you are supposed to be able to provide your kids with a roof over their heads. It is the absolute bare minimum. I have been feeling and still do feel guilty for putting him through that in the first place. He is my only kid and I just felt like I couldn't guarantee that he was okay if he wasn't with me, even though our situation was extremely hard. After getting over the initial emotions, he seemed pretty happy and we had pizza on the floor and excitedly talked about everything and how we want our new home to look. He seems okay now, but I still can't get over the fact that this whole experience probably scarred him for a life, and it is highly likely that I will be shipped off to a nursing home when I'm old and frail.